Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Simon. With me, I have Melanie. Hi, Melanie. How are you doing?
Hi, Simon. I'm fine, and you?
I'm doing great today. Today, we have a very interesting program for you, everyone listening in. So our webinar is called BPMN User Task for Human and AI Agents. If you were drawn to this webinar on the AI part and don't know much about BPMN, BPMN is a standard for a standard notation for workflows. It's not the end of the world. If you've never heard about BPMN, you'll be able to follow all of that. If you are a BPMN expert, you'll gain a little bit more out of this presentation, but it's absolutely not a requirement. Don't tune off if you are not already a BPMN expert. So in today's presentation, Melanie, if you want to scroll me to the next slide, thank you very much. We'll talk about why coordination is the right frame for introducing AI into your operational workflows. We'll go through in typical workflow processes, how can you assign performers of tasks to either a human, an AI under human supervision, or an autonomous AI. And we'll complete with a very nice live demonstration of different use cases with concrete patterns. So this webinar will be recorded, and the slides and the recording will be available on the TriStack website in a few days. If you registered before, you'll receive a link by email in a few days, and you'll find that on our website. Also, I will be monitoring the chat during the presentation. If you have questions for Melanie while she's doing the presentation, please send them over. If we're still on topic, I'll pop back in and we'll interact directly with the demo. If the topic has passed, we'll address those at the end. We'll try to keep 5 minutes at the end for potential questions. So, Melanie, let's start. By the way, a bunch of people are wishing you a good morning in chat, so I'll let you get started on the presentation.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. So today we want to talk about how you can leverage AI within your organization. So AI is a big hype at this time. Everyone wants to use it to do as much as possible, and that's understandable because it has a lot of power. And the issue we want to bring to your attention today is if you just throw in AI everywhere you can kind of fall back to the same problem we had and we still have sometimes with human performer. So your different AI will do stuff. They may do it in different ways from time to time because AI does not produce exactly the same outcome at each time. The decision they make will be harder to trace because you won't have all the context they had, what they have done exactly. So it might get tougher to see what happened. The accountability and the responsibility may become unclear as well if they are at different level. And the handoff, so if you have a sequence of tasks, different things that need to be done within your organization, maybe one time it's going to be one output and it's not sure where it should go next. So it might become inconsistent. And finally, if there's a need for an exception, escalation, some things to handle that is different than a normal flow, then maybe it will change from time to time depending on the different decisions that were taken. So those are all existing problems within organization for the different tasks that needs to be done. It's nothing different that AI brings it, but since AI is way faster than human and does not weigh that much and is confident, whether a human may stop and say, hey, how should I do this? AI tends to be really confident and do the stuff as fast as it can. So those old problems can get really big if AI does what it wants. So Simon did a small introduction to BPMN, and as he mentioned, this has been used for decades. So BPMN is not something new. It's a notation that has been around for a while. And for some time, it was only used to describe the processes that were done. So the goal of it was to show how things are done, to kind of make visible some of the invisible processes within the organization. And it was also used to see where we can improve those processes. So even in a descriptive manner, a process can lay out the different tasks that are done within for specific workflows, and who's doing them and what condition triggers the next action and stuff like that. So you can really see how things are done in your organization. And they are also used now to orchestrate the work. So it's not just descriptive, it can now automate things. So they are really great at orchestrating different systems, manage task assignment to coordinate different performers, and handle escalation as well. You can really define the path, what should happen in case of error, and all of that. Now, with that in mind, why does it help with AI? Because it will solve or help improve on those issues that I've mentioned earlier. So by having a workflow behind your AI use, you are showing clearly who's doing what and when they are doing it. So you can really coordinate the AI agent, the humans, and also your external systems. So AI could do the stuff that are really more subjective, that really need its interpretation, while you can keep your systems to do all those descriptive of the thing that will not change from time. So you want to be able to still use those systems for things that are repeatable and do not change from time to time. Because with the price of tokens and stuff, you want to keep stuff that are repeatable, isolated, and you can still have your human in the loop at the place where they matter and will bring the most value. So by having that, you can see, okay, when do we need to review, when it is okay to just let through, and all your process is, you can see who's accountable and it's traceable. So you can see when AI was called, what it got as an input, what it produced as an output. Of course, you will not be able to know what happened in its mind, as you would not be able to do so for a performer, a human performer, but at least you'll see exactly what it has done with the input it had. And the descriptive portion of BPMN will help make the process understandable to everyone. So instead of being just a black box, you'll see what happens in which order, and you'll bring more value. So by combining the orchestration and the AI, this is when you can really bring business value and leverage the power of AI. So now, what is a user task? So a user task is really a task assigned to a user in the BPMN model, but it's not just a placeholder to say, hey, someone needs to do something. They are actually defining how that task needs to be done. So with the description, you can also have some supporting documents. You can definitely say who should be doing the work. So it can be group, it could be assignment expression, a named user, and AI performer. And you can define what is the context of the task, what it would get as an input for that specific instance of the task, and what it should produce, so the task outputs. So those are represented with the little pages with the line. Those are the inputs coming in, and the line going out, the result that should be produced by that task. So the user task is really there to guide performer in producing an outcome that the rest of the workflow can use. So something that has real value for the rest. Now, if we introduce AI as a performer instead of a human, we put it in the same context. So it has the same contract as the human had. So it will know the description of the task, what should be done. It will have defined inputs and defined outputs. So it can still be used within the rest of the flow. And for those that are a bit more familiar with BPMN and might have used service tasks to do API calls to AI, by putting them in a business as a performer, it makes those easier to use for a business user. So you define all the connection and all the technical stuff outside of the process, and they are just another performer to your business user. So that's add a lot of value when you want to introduce them in a simple way. Regarding the supervision, if you want to keep that work bounded, we have different ways that I'll show you right after to check and review what the AI has done. So one is the attended task. This is a special kind of attributes that TriZettic has added to systematically review the result of a task. Can be done for AI performer, but as well as service task and all the other tasks that are available. And you can also use optional verification depending on different on the context. So I'll show you that as well later. Now, if you look at how you can use AI in your day-to-day life and in your processes within the organization, they can be used as a tool. So just something on the side that a human use, just look at the input and decide whether they want to use it or not, continuing forward. So in that case, the decision authority is still in the hand of the human because they're the one looking at the result and deciding if they are valuable or not. So you don't need as much transparency into the fact that AI was used because in the end, the human was still there, and it doesn't need to be as governed as it would if it's more independent. If it's an assistant, then it's kind of, we are working together. So the AI is doing more of the work, but the human is still there to oversee. And then you're starting to get moderate needed for transparency. So people know what's happened there and the governance. If you assign it to do something by itself as a task within a flow, then it's still a bit constrained. So the responsibility is kind of shared between the AI and the human. You starting to need more transparency to see what's going on and to acknowledge the fact that AI was involved. And then you need a lot of government. And if you're out of the process and just use AI as agent to do their work by themselves, as is really promoted by the AI world, then you're kind of delegating the authority to the AI. And this is where you need to be really careful and have a lot of safeguards around it to have transparency with that usage and a lot of governance around. So the more liberty you give to the AI, the more you need to pay attention to what it's doing and the more risk you may have. So we'll go into the demo now, and I'll move forward with first with the basic stuff about task, how we assign, define the description. So that will be the first one. And then we'll go forward with more and more free range AI until the point where it's just doing the work by itself. So we'll start by task assignment and attended task, then a gated review, so only checking sometimes, dynamic supervision, which will be the more advanced case I'll show to you, and in the end, unsupervised AI. So the context I'll be using today for the demo, no worry if you're not familiar with those terms, it's just a frame around the demo. It's really not targeted towards finance or anything. If you're in healthcare, you'll follow, no problem. So what I'll be using to demo is a property appraisal that is submitted as part of a mortgage loan application. So when the bank wants to loan money, they want to make sure they don't lose any money. So they want to have an appraiser review the property to see if it's matched the actual loan price. So they will it's matched what needs to be done, and they are not too much at risk. And in our context, we'll focus only on the part that the appraiser submit that review, and we want it to be reviewed to be sure it was good enough to be considered following in the process. So it's going to be really a simple part that we'll use. So with that said, let's go into the demo. So this is a really simple BPMN diagram. So you have here the task that needs to be done, which is to evaluate the appraisal quality. So we want to say if it's good to move forward. And what we are asking the performer is to review it based on what is defined in the description here. So we want to ensure that the report meets high standard of accuracy, clarity, and completeness. Evaluate the quality of the appraisal report based on the following criteria. Is it complete? Is it clear? Is it consistent? And we check the comparable and how it was evaluated for its value. So it's kind of a generic task, but this is what the performer is expected to do. Look at that and see if it's complete enough. So now to assign that task, you can just click on the user icon here, and you see here that it's assigned to collateral reviewers. So this is a group of users. So it means that it will be offered to any person that has that role within the organization. You can also assign it to named user. And for a more advanced case, you could use expression to really nail down to how you want to assign. So group assignment is usually better to use because if the people change within your organization, you do not need to change that. But if you have specific people to do some things, you may use it. You can also decide when to notify your performers, so never bother them with email or anything. Each time they are offered a task, they can be notified, or probably the best approach is to notify them only if they are not already doing that process. So this is what this option means. It means that you will only get a notification if you cannot do if you're not the one that just completed some task. So just to keep the flow moving. You can notify by email or by Teams. So those are basic work that you can use for assignment for performer, human performer. You see here what is the input of that task is the actual appraisal. So an appraisal is really a list of comments about the property. It also contains some other property that were compared against to try to evaluate if within the current market it matched the price that it was sold at. And so this is what is evaluated by the human, and they need to produce a structured data, a structure output that will have a score, which is a number, and an explanation of that score. So this is what we are expecting that task to do. So everything is defined, and after that we have here what is called a gateway in BPMN. So it's a branching point. So if the score is equal or greater to 8, we'll say the appraisal is approved. And if it's lower, we'll say it rejected. So pretty simple workflow, but it's really defined. And when you run that appraisal evaluation,
Melanie, while you're taking a sip of water, some people have mentioned that they have problem with the resolution. Sometimes StreamYard will decide to give you a lower resolution by default. So if you go into no, not you, like people that are watching, the StreamYard may have decided to give you a lower quality of the feed. So there's a gear that allows you to change the default, or change from the default to, let's say, a 1080p.
I'm at 720. Should I move it up?
No, you're at okay. We're broadcasting in HD and 1080. Anyway, so if you go in the gear, you're going to get a much better resolution. So I'll let you continue.
Myself, so let's see if it helps. Okay, so this is like the appraisal. So you have all the property details and the comparables. And I've already run it. So normally I would have the input here to put my score in the result. So this part is the input. I ran it before and forget to reset. But so this is how the information is there. So the description at the top. So the performer really has all the context. Now we're going to move to the AI world. So our next demo is with attended task. So here we have the exact same process. It hasn't changed at all, aside from that icon and the fact that we will be assigning that to an AI agent. So from the dropdown, you pick that, and here you'll have the choice of the different AI agent defined by your team, and you can just assign it. Just like that, now it's an AI that will do that. And the attended task is that marker here. So you set it by checking that attended task thing, and you can either check the inputs and or the outputs. So in our case, we will check, a human will check the output of that task. So you can also set it here, attribute attended task. So this really means that each time this task will run, we will ask for verification. So if I launch it, I submit that appraisal. Now the AI will do its work. And once it is done, I will get its output. Right, it's just done, completed now. So it's scored an 8, with a comment and say, I can say, okay, I agree, or I could change that to a 9 because I think it was too severe, and submit. So now the score at the end is the 9. So the human made the final call, and that appraisal was approved.
Melanie, before you move to the
Yeah.
next one, I have an interesting question here. Someone was wondering why you are using data inputs and data outputs instead of data objects for your task, your user task inputs and outputs.
Well, the reason is because that process is really simple, and the input is the input of the process. So it means that the process will be expecting an appraisal to start, and I'm just passing that to my task. And the process in that specific case will produce the appraisal quality as a result. But it could have been a plain data object, but in that case, I would not be able to submit the appraisal to start the process. So that's just because it's a so simple process. Now, the next one is almost the same. So we still have here our AI performer that is assigned to do that task, still gets the appraisal, and there it's a data object because it will continue within the flow. So here we'll have still the report of quality generated by AI, but instead of just approving it, checking it all the time, we will say that, well, if it's higher than 8, we've been trusting our AI now. We know it's good at finding the good appraisal and the really bad one. So if it's a high score, a low score, we'll trust it. But for those in between, then we want to check it. So for the attended task, it was more, we don't trust the result yet. We need to check it all the time. Now we are getting more confident, and we say, okay, let's just check the borderline case between 5 and 7. So same thing, the human will get the ask, and then they will decide if it's approved or rejected. So this is a slightly different pattern to only check the borderline cases. So it's conditional supervision when you are more confident about the AI. Now we move to a slightly more complex process. So here we have more steps. This serves two purposes. I'm going to show you a different pattern to decide what needs to be done next, but also it means that the AI, the output here that is done by that task, it can be just one of the output used within the process. So it doesn't have to be the only thing that is done and the only result. It can be part of a more complex process. So although this looks really complex, it's still pretty simple. So we have still on the same task. Here we have a decision just to decide what needs to be done next. So it can be either, instead of just using the score of the AI or the performer that did that before, we also want to check if there was enough comparable in the house and the value of it. So for a high value property, we want to escalate to a senior analysis all the time. If for some reason the AI did not give a score, then we need to check to a human to decide what should be done next, and in some case we reject. So here we are just saying, let's use a decision table, a DMN model, to decide what can be done next instead of just leaving the score and approve or rejected. So this uses a specific feature of Trisotech to be able to, in a manual task, in a user task, to have some inputs that are not shown in the list as they were before. So you can hide them here, those internal input with the arrow, and say, don't show them to the user. They are just the action that they can pick, and we use them instead in the form that they are shown. So instead of having all the 4 action here, we go here in the input that they need to fix, and we say, okay, let's just show the choices that were returned by that decision table. So it could be 1 action, 2 action, or all the 4 action, but it's going to be a filter out by that. And if you want a simpler example, the senior review, when we are at their place, they can only use the next action to our filter, but in that case, we want them to only accept or reject. So we remove all the other choices and we say your available next action are only those 2, accept or reject. So here in the output mapping, we say the allowed values are not as defined by the type, but only those in the next action. So that gives you really fine control and some gated to see what can be done. So if I was to run it quickly, because now the AI still will do its work. Afterwards, it will run the decision, pick what next action should be used. So I have more than one. So now I'm asked at the bottom here to pick what next. So I can either accept, reject, or escalate to analysis. So let me accept it and submit. So that process is done. So those choices that can be done, it's really, you can use the AI result only as part of the full decision, and then you can move forward to fine-grain what needs to be done. So it's really a matter of how much control you want to have. And now for the final step, the demo 5, now we say, we remove all of those safeguards and we say, now we kind of trust the AI, it will do the right call. So it's really the exact same process as I had for my demo 1 with a human performer. The only difference being that it's assigned only to that AI reviewer. So it's not assigned anymore to a human. There is no more attended task. So this is unchecked, so it will not be checked each time, and it will just do the work. So this is when you are ready to say, okay, now the AI is good. Let's trust it with the filtering of those appraisal, and we won't check it anymore. So the process will complete by itself with the AI result. So I picked a bad appraisal and it got rejected in my example. So the goal of this presentation was really to show you that the goal is not to throw AI at every task without any organization. The goal is to keep the work coordinated, explicit, and governed. So that way you can see exactly what's happened when the AI is involved, when human is involved, and have defined review point and still have accountability for your processes. So now, do we have any questions?
We do have a question. One of them is a pretty wide question, but I'm going to see what you think about that. Someone is asking, how can this be implemented into an existing CRM?
In an existing CRM, well, you could have some point that are going to fetch whatever data you need from that CRM. So you need to have a task. So you'll need some inputs, you fetch them. Then whatever you need the AI to decide on it, you can pass it to it and then do the next result. So you could have like a service task first to extract the data from your CRM, pass what you want to analyze to the AI next, and then do whatever decision you need based on that afterwards. So this is the way I would do that.
Okay, well, I thought it was more like, how can we implement that pattern in the CRM? But anyway, that's the thing with questions that are asked in the chat. We don't always get the proper context. So, I mean, and this is more a longer discussion. It depends on in which CRM.
Yeah,
it depends. There are ways of integrating workflows into CRMs. Depending on which one it is, they have different extension points for that. So yeah, it's more of a conversation. But if that person that asked that question is interested in continuing the discussion, they certainly can contact us through our website, and we'll be happy to do a one-on-one deeper dive into that. Someone is asking, maybe we'll take that as a last question. How about business rule? How does this complement BRMS? I think you kind of showed an example where you have a decision table with rules in there. So some of the pattern, you can mix human and AI decision with the BRMS. Maybe you can go a little bit over like the what you had done, where depending on the human decision, you would have additional, or depending on the BRMS decision, you would have additional human involvement or not.
Yeah, sure. So I had one business rule task in my last example. And in that case, it was after the fact the AI did something to decide if we need to take more action based on that result. You could also even have, like, based on the input you have, does it need to be reviewed by AI? Do we need involvement with that? So it could be before. And this is out of the scope of this webinar, but you can even give those decision as part of the tools to be used by AI. So there's really a wide range of things that you can do with AI and those decisions. So they can be used as tool to make, they can be used to route the decision, and business logic are really reliable because they won't change from time to time. So that's why they still have a lot of value in regulated industries like healthcare and finance.
And as we're going to be closing this, we're at time. We get some thank yous from the chat. I think that one of the takeaway we can have here is, with the advance of AI, like, you don't need to change your processes. You can also consider just changing the performers of who's doing those tasks, and mixing AI performer, either supervised, unsupervised, can help leverage AI into existing processes that are already there. So I will close the webinar by thanking everyone for attending live. We will have the slides and the video available on our website in a few days. As registrant to the webinar, you'll also receive an email with a link to that. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Melanie, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.